Good morning, Miss. Welcome to the Art Studio and happy Monday to everybody out there. It is week 2 of February, and I am here in the studio today to talk to you about everything that's going on in our art classes. So I've got stuff to talk to you about printmaking. I've got stuff to talk to you about drawing. I've got stuff to talk to you about sewing, as well as our fundamentals classes. So we're going to run through all the different classes that we have in the studio and what they're doing in class this week. So if you've got a kiddo in class, this is where you can find out what we're doing. Now, we have a little bit of an odd situation this month because the month started on a Tuesday, which is totally not our favorite thing around here, but I mean, I don't control the calendar. So the month started on a Tuesday. So my Monday classes, when I'm talking week 2, all you Monday people, you're actually doing week 1 today because you didn't meet last week because it was still January. So your first February class is today. So if you are like watching this video and you're thinking this is what you're going to do today in Monday classes, that's not true. Go back and watch last week's video so you can see what we're doing in classes. But this is week 2. So for Tuesday through Friday classes, this is your video on what is going on in the studio this week. I'm actually going to start with the multimedia classes because I have some ink already out and I don't want it to dry before I get to it. So our multimedia classes are doing printmaking this month. They get to change their media every single month. And this month is all about printmaking. So my kindergartners and first graders are doing mono prints. If you'll remember last week, they played with jelly plates and they explored making mono prints. And I have an example here. This was one that we were playing with. You can see kind of the ombre effect. You can see some textures going on. This was a two prints. So one print was the background. The second print was kind of this hazy patterning on top. So this is just on regular kind of heavy duty art paper because the kids got to just explore jelly print and mono printing last week. This week, they're going to be getting their background printed, and we're doing that with the jelly plates. That's why we played with them last week. And I have a finished work that one of the instructors was playing with. Ms. Akira came in last night, and we worked the curriculum together. So she actually has this one that I wanted to show you. So you can see she's got her mono printed background, and then she also has her embossed block print on top. So ignore the block print because that's not what they're doing this week. What they're doing is the background print. So she has her background done and her mono print. She went with a really subtle texture and a really kind of simple gradient kind of throughout. So this is hers. And I will show you the embossed. It's metallic. Can you see? And gold. And that's done with the printing ink and then an embossing powder and then a heat gun. So I'll actually show that process as maybe next week or the week after. That's when the kids will be doing it. But just know this week they're going to be getting their backgrounds printed and they're going to work on creating their printing plate for their block print. So that's what this is right here. So it's a round circle. We're going to learn about mandalas and we're going to learn about symmetry and repeating shapes and all of that fun stuff. So that's what this is. So they're going to do 2 things. They're going to print their backgrounds, those cute little K1ers, and they're going to begin working on what their block print is going to be on top. Okay? Now, my 2nd and 3rd graders, and this is what the ink is for. Last week I told you that they were building something called a holograph. And when we make a relief printing plate, you can do it by adding stuff on top of a substrate, or you can do it by removing things like carving, which is what our older kids are doing. Our younger ones, our 2nd, 3rds, are going to be building up and to create that relief so that you get a print. And they're going to be making what we call a holograph. So I've got one here that I've already made, and we're using manila folders, and it's really subtle. I don't know if you can see the pattern. Can you see it? It's got some hearts on it. This is just my practice one, and that's kind of what they did this week is they just learned a little bit about collagraphs, and then last week, this week, they're going to actually build their final one. They're going to work with landscapes. I have an example somewhere. Making lots of noises over there. That must be, I've lost my example. So sorry. I had it here. Oh, here's one. Okay, so here is a landscape collagraph that's already been printed. You can see. And this is the actual printing plate. So this is not a mono print. I can roll this and I can print it. And I can roll it with ink and I can print it over and over and over again. Now, each print is an original piece of art, but I can do it more than once. Unlike a mono print that I roll the paint down or the ink down and I pull a print and then, that's it. I got to redo my texture or and it's never going to be the same. So this is not a mono print. But you can see I pulled prints from the collagraph plate, and they're all very different depending on how much ink was on the plate at the time. So the kids are going to explore not only making their collagraph, but also pulling the print, because that's an important part of printmaking. Like, it's not foolproof, as you'll see. Hopefully I'm going to print one for you. I'm going to print this little heart one here, and hopefully I nail it on the first try. But if not, I mean, such is printmaking. Okay, so what I have here is a block printing ink. We use Speedball's block printing ink. It's kind of sticky. It maybe has like the consistency of a heavy body acrylic, but it's sticky, and you'll see what I mean. We also use real printing tools. This is called a brayer, and I'm going to roll the ink. Can you hear it? We call that the kissing sound. That's the kind of sound you want, because we're going to get a really even coat of the ink onto the brayer. And then I take my brayer and I'm going to roll it onto my printing plate. And actually, why don't you come down here and take a look? Ready? I have you like up on a stool so that you can see it. Okay, here we go. I'm going to put a piece of paper. This gets kind of messy. Printmaking is a messy thing. All right, so here we go. I'm going to roll my ink all over the top of my collagraph. Put a little bit more ink. Like I said, this is just the practice one. They will do like legit landscapes starting this week, but we let them just practice for a little bit. Okay, so I got my ink on there. I guess I could go all the way to this edge. We really find that using an actual printmaking ink, we can get much more successful prints than if we were to use paint. Now I'm going to pull, so if any of my studios are out there are wondering, we've tried it with paint. I very much recommend the ink. Okay, I'm going to slide this. It keeps my surface clean. All right, and I'm going to put my plate down. I'm going to put my paper on top. Now, if we were actually doing this, I would have a border taped here so that I would know when I lay this down that it's going to be centered, but we're just practicing. So I'm going to lay it down. And then I'm going to use another printmaking tool. This is called a Baron, and it's kind of real slippery and slick right here. And it helps me apply even pressure to the top of my paper. You want to rub in like small firm circles. I'm pushing down pretty hard. That's the other reason why the stickiness of the ink is good, because it helps to make sure that like my paper is not going to slip or slide. Okay. Now I'm going to have a little bit of a drawback. This is not the best printing surface. My table has a lot of crud on it, a lot of glue, a lot of Mod Podge, a lot of paint. Ideally, it would be a smooth surface, and when we print with the kids, it will be. All right, here we go. We're going to pull this up and see how our print turned out. Whoa. So there is the printing of my collagraph. All right. Now, collagraph doesn't have to be paper. It could be, could have been lace. It could have been string. It could have been cardboard. Could have been like corrugated cardboard. It could have been fabric. Anything that gives us a raised texture can pull a collagraph print. So, all right. Hopefully that when your kids talk to you about making their collagraph, now it's too far away. Come here. Oh. Hopefully that helps so you understand what in the world we're talking about. So they're going to make and create their own collagraph printing plate, and then they're going to print it. That's what they're doing this month. Their theme, this is a little mini practice one, their theme will be a landscape. So they're working on kind of thing. They're working on understanding like background, foreground, midground kind of concepts. Okay, so that's my second and third graders. Now my fourth, my fifth, my middle school, high school, they are carving. And I think last week I showed you the soft cut that they're carving from. I didn't really bring a whole lot to show you this week, although I do have the carving tools. So I wasn't sure if you could visualize what kind of tool they're using. So this is a type of tool. You can see it just has a little U. It's sharp right here, kind of has a knife point on it. And so you use your soft cut and you just kind of scoop or carve. So you run it right across the surface and it pulls out the texture. So they actually played, this is scrap of the soft cut, and you actually played with, you can see kind of digging out different shapes and patterns and using the different tools. So they come in different sizes. Whoops. They come in different sizes. They come in, some of them are more U-shaped and some of them are V-shaped, so we can get just a really skinny line. So there's different kinds of cutters in here that they can switch out. As you can see, it comes out pretty easily. Ooh. All right. So that's what our 4th and 5th are going to be doing. They've started designing their stamps, which essentially that's what it is. They looked at stamps to understand how it works, positive and negative space. Anything you leave raised that you don't touch becomes what you print, and anything you carve away becomes the negative space. So we're carving away the areas we don't want to print. So they have to understand that. We looked at stamps to help us understand that, and now they're working on designing theirs, transferring their design onto the piece of soft cut, which is 4x5, and starting to carve away. So, and then they'll print. That's how theirs goes, and we'll show that later on. Alrighty, so that is multimedia classes in printmaking. We are making a huge mess with printing inks and just having a grand old time. Okay. Now, my drawing classes. Where's my Post-it? There it is. Drawing classes. Got it. Stick it right there. Drawing classes are doing portraiture this month. And so it's all about the people. It's all about the face. My 101s last week drew self-portraits, and they grumbled and they complained and they did fantastic. And it didn't turn out to be nearly as bad as they thought it was. They had a ball with it. This week, 101 gets to draw friends. So they get to move away from their own face and draw somebody else's face. They'll still get their choice of materials. So remember last month we did the basics. So we did lessons in using charcoal, lessons in using pencil, lessons in using ink, and lessons in using color. So this week or this month, they get to choose that. So they'll pick whatever their media of choice is, their drawing media of choice, and then they will do a portrait of a friend using those same principles. We did, some of our classes taught the Loomis method. If you want to do some Googling, if your kids come home talking about Loomis, that's some of the classes were ready for that and really wanted that. So I know Miss Carly out in Flatwoods taught that. We talked about it in our staff meeting on Friday. So you might have more kids this week come home with that, talking about Loomis. So in portraiture. My 102 classes are doing something very similar, except for instead of drawing friends, they're going to practice drawing from photograph. Drawing from life, and which is like me looking at you sitting in front of me. Drawing from life is very different than drawing from photograph, because photograph is actually easier. It flattens the image for me. Whereas from life, I'm not flat. I'm 3D. And if I'm drawing and I move my head just a little bit, my subject changes. Or if I shift just a little bit, if my eyeballs change, my subject changes. And so it adds an extra degree of difficulty. So they're going to draw from photograph today and continue to work on their values. Last week, we really focused a lot on values. This week, they'll continue to do values, but now we can really start to get some of the proportions, because on a photograph, we can actually draw. All right, so they'll do black and white, either charcoal or graphite. Now, my 102s last week, in comic and anime, they focused on eyeballs and different types of eyes in comics, drawing, anime drawing, manga drawing, and cartooning, right? All 4 different styles. So they have a whole library of different eyes that they can choose from, or they can adapt and change for their own characters. This week, we're doing something very similar, but we're doing it with mouths and noses. So it's this part of the face right here. Okay. And then, of course, they continue to work in inks. So that is my drawing classes. Now, my sewing classes, I don't have any projects to show you because they just cut some things out. So they didn't really, but I do have the finished one to show you. This is my heartstrings pillows. This is what they are going to be making throughout the month of February, which is a great themed project. So they'll have to cut and applique their hearts and then sew their pillow together. It's actually the exact same fabric I was able to find. This is from probably 2019. So it's old. But I do have felt for the hearts instead of the kind of the flimsy cotton, because projects get better as time goes on. So that's what's coming up for our sewing classes. If you missed sewing class last week and you didn't get to finish your penguin, make sure you get with me or Miss Liz, and we'll get you in here for a makeup so you can finish those up and move along to February. Now, my Fundamentals. That's the last thing on my Post-it note in terms of classes. So fundamentals classes this week. Again, if you're in Monday fundamentals, you're doing, last week's. But my fundamentals class this week, you guys are continuing your portrait and figure month and printmaking month. And we're looking at the art of Paul Klee, the art of Andy Warhol, and the art of Roy Lichtenstein to kind of get that concept of the face. So super fun artists that are up on the wall for the kids to see. They got to print last week on jelly plates and do some Valentine's mono printing, which was fun. We did some portraiture activities. We have the face paints out, which I think is such a great way for preschoolers to explore their own faces. We also have, I think I posted on Facebook, we have the Mr. Potato Head pieces out with the Play-Doh so they can practice putting eyeballs and ears and noses and mouths in the right places. Or not. More often than not. But it's still exploring portraiture and in a very approachable way for preschoolers. This week, we work on figure. So the kids are going to work on whole body portraits. That's where we roll out the butcher paper that is kid-sized, and they lay down on the floor, and the friend traces them, and then they get to draw themselves, their whole body. What am I wearing? Where are my ears? Where's my hair? What's my, what do my shoes look like? And all that stuff. So it's a big canvas, and it's a super fun project. It's also one that can go home with you, and you can continue to work on it because it's big. And anytime you work big, there's just some time allowed because takes more time to cover a bigger surface. And so their attention span is not usually long enough to finish the project here in class, right? Which, neither is mine. So, but that's okay. They'll get as far as they want to. And when the activity comes to its natural conclusion, we'll move on to something else. But we'll roll that up, send it home with you, and feel free to re-invite your kids to do it again. Roll it back out, work on it together. What a fun thing to continue to do at home. So we've got those coming up. And then next week is the last week, and it's Ain't Gonna Paint No More, which is one of our favorites. It is messy. Make sure you wear old clothes. If you are in the preschool fundamentals classes, it's washable, but it's going to be messy. Optionally, if your kids are not in a mess, they don't have to get messy, but they will have the option of body painting with the washable paints as we follow along with the story. If you're not familiar with that story, do some Googling because it's a good one. We will also be working with their own portraiture. So this week in class, we're gonna take pictures of your kids, and then we'll have those printed onto transparency papers for a project on week 3. Okay. I think that's it. That's everything I have for all of the classes that's going on in the second week of February for 2022. Housekeeping stuff, it's the same stuff. So spring break camps are open. They are almost full or full. I know sewing is full. Didn't take long there. So those are, they are registering now. So if you want a spot, go ahead. You can put your name on the wait list if you didn't get a spot, and we'll let you know if a spot opens up. We will not open more spots. There will not be we didn't hold any back. But we get cancellations. We get people that, I didn't know there was going to be this camp or this vacation, or I'm sick, or, sister's sick, or whatever it is. So if you put your name on the list and we get a cancellation, we'll let you know, and you'll have the option of grabbing that spot. The other thing is summer registration. Just a reminder, March 1st for Studio Club members. So if you are a Studio Club member on March 1st, you can register for classes for summer camps and classes. If you are not a Studio Club member, it's okay. You just got to wait a little longer. So March 15th, that'll open for everybody else, okay? If you're looking at the website and it says wait list, please don't freak out. It is not actually full. It's just not actually open. So you can go and put your name on the wait list if you want, and that's really cool because if you do that, then when it opens on the 15th, we'll text you. I know, emails are great, but sometimes texts are better. That's what's coming up. I think that's it. There's more, March 1st, I think, is when the Easter egg thing opens, and I don't know. And then eventually the Mother's Day thing opens, but I don't know those deadlines. So, but it's not yet, so I don't need to really worry about it. Yeah, that's it. Hope you guys have a great week of February. What month is it? I heard it's supposed to be gorgeous out. We're going to have beautiful weather here in Kansas City that is warm and sunny, so that's exciting. Makes winter so much better. So I'll see you guys in the studio, everybody.